Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, John Ryan, and this is the Predictive Playbook Sports Betting Show at Manny's Irish Pub. And we have a very special guest today. It is co-founder Marco D'Angelo. We're pleased to have him on board. But before I really introduce him to the show, I want to go over a few of his hot streaks because this man seems to be always on one. And I'm not kidding around, and that's not hype. But he's 22-6. All play since July 28th. That's $4,272. Major League Baseball, 26-11 since the All-Star break. 17-4 football run to finish 2021. NBA, 60%. 5% NFL plays, which we all love, 12-5. 6-1 on 5% Big Dance NCAA tournament plays the last 2 years. Now I'll welcome you to the show. Marco, how's it going this week?
Wow, sounds really good. It's definitely current form has been sensational for us right now, and looking forward to picking up the football season where we left off last year. We did have one preseason play last week. We did bet the Hall of Fame game. It involved my hometown Steelers, and we were on the under in that one. So we're 1-0 to start this season, and coming off a good NBA season and having a good baseball season. I really couldn't ask for much more, and glad to be here and share some thoughts with you guys.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on board here. Tony Finn and Rob Veno. I believe Rob Veno will be joining us shortly, and then Tony Finn will be probably closer to 4:30ish. I think he's doing a SEC show, I think is what he's doing for WagerTalk, so that's a good thing. We do have the game tonight, the Field of Dreams game. And it really is amazing to me, Marco, that they have been able to create this. There's going to be 8,000 fans there, is my understanding. And I have to admit, being a baseball guy, and you're a baseball guy too, I would go to that game before a World Series game, if it was ever possible. And it's in Iowa, and it's right on the movie set where the Field of Dreams movie was filmed with Kevin Costner and a bunch of other famous actors. I'm terrible with names with actors and actresses, but it is a classic sports movie, not just a Major League Baseball movie, but it is a classic movie that is just fun to watch. And if you haven't seen it, if you're part of that Generation Z, this is a movie that you will enjoy, and I promise you will. So what do you think of this game taking place tonight, Marco?
Well, as you said, John, how popular and how nice it would be to be there. Only 8,000 seats. I did a show earlier today with Drew Martin and Dave Koken, the WagerTalk First Pitch show. And Drew talked about that this is the highest price ticket average seat for this game, the average sale price, the history in baseball. Now, he didn't quote the number, but they were reporting, I think one of the seat places, Seat Geek or something like that, was saying that the resale market on this game was incredible. And why wouldn't it be? You painted the picture there, and for the players, they're pumped for it. And, a lot of people might say, well, it's a gimmick game because they're playing it here, and it's not a legitimate baseball field. How's that going to play? Well, my answer to that, first off, is as far as is there an advantage or is there not an advantage? We don't know that. It's the first time they're playing a game there. What we do know is both teams are going to play on that same field. So what I do when breaking a game down like that, you can't try to guess the unknown. You can only do what you know and look at the numbers that you have for this game. I can tell you the White Sox have a big lead in their division, and a lot of people might say, hey, at some point this season they might start tapping the brakes and, resting some players or pull pitchers early, save their inning count, for the playoffs and so forth. And all of that is a distinct possibility as we move forward in later August and into the month of September. But I can tell you the White Sox are pumped to be here, so much so that Lance Lynn, the starter tonight, was actually scheduled to go last night. They pushed him back a day in the rotation to have him pitch in this game instead of last night. So that's a good indicator on the White Sox and where their motivation is. The Yankees, John, when you first look at this game and you see the line, yeah, the White Sox are playing sensational baseball, and they have from day one all year. But when the average bettor looks and sees the Yankees, just that name, the Yankees, and they're seeing them as a sizable dog tonight, if they're going to bet the game and they want some action on it, there's going to be some Yankee money just because you never get the Yankees at this big of an underdog role. And it's deserved. They should be this big of an underdog. Yes, they've won 10 of their last 13 games, John, but if you look at who they've played during this winning streak, they beat Baltimore, Seattle, and Kansas City. 3 of those 4 teams are not winning teams. Seattle's the only team with a winning record, barely over 500, and those games were in New York. The other 3 teams that they beat, those teams have a combined record of 135 and 204. We talk about strength of schedule in every other sport. When football, that's a big handicapping tool when you talk about strength of schedule. Right now, the Yankees are putting up good numbers, better than they have most of the season, simply because they've been playing the bottom feeders of baseball. The White Sox are a good team. The pitching matchup with Lance Lynn and Andrew Heaney. Andrew Heaney was a pickup at the trade deadline. I used this joke on the other show today, too. When I saw them pick up Heaney, I was scratching what little hair I had left on my head of why they wanted to go out and get him at the trade deadline. Yeah, he's a left-handed arm, and those are always, a luxury you want to have to be able to have that left-handed starter, or if you use him in a different situation. But Heaney's not pitched good this year, and he's prone to the big innings. Lance Lynn, to me, is one of the most fly-under-the-radar pitchers in baseball. Year in and year out, he puts up big numbers, but he's not one of the household names of Major League Baseball. You don't talk about him, when you talk about the elite pitchers, the Kershaws, Bueller, Shears, Max Scherzer. Yeah. He's just not in that talk. But you look at his numbers, and they're phenomenal. So where I'm going to go for this game is I'm going to go first 5 innings. We bring the price down by going first 5 innings. We take the minus half a run with that. And one thing I want to say to some bettors out there, I've had several customers that reach out to me and say, hey, my sportsbook doesn't offer a first 5 inning minus a half a run. Well, some of the newer books like the FanDuels and the DraftKings, what they do is they don't offer that minus half, but a lot of those places do offer the soccer bet, the 3-way bet, where if you bet the team, you lose on a tie. A guy goes, well, I lose on a tie. I said, what do you think you do on a tie minus a half a run? It's the same bet. So it's just worded differently. So just put that out there for viewers that don't see that available. Look a little deeper. Most of the books do have that, but it's under the 3-way bet. So for first free play for your viewers, John, I'm going White Sox, first 5, minus a half, or take them on the 3-way line, first 5.
Well, while you were talking, you might have seen me looking down. I went right into the database, and welcome to the show, Rob Veno. I love typing up things live on these shows, going into the database based on what people are saying. And sometimes we come up with some pretty cool supportive metrics. And the Yankees as a dog happens, more than you think. Yankees as a dog of 150 or higher, and they're 155, what I'm seeing right now. Last 5 seasons, it's happened 19 times. They're 10-9. If you bet on them, obviously you're averaging a 165 wager, and that produces an ROI of 40%. What's even better is the run line. An amazing 16-3 the Yankees are as a dog of 150 and higher, 84%. And a 51% ROI over the last 5 seasons. So that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, they're Yankees, they're a prideful team, and like anybody else, they know what the point spread is, whether, they're not supposed to or not. They know they're an underdog, and they get pumped up. But you look at the numbers with Heaney, John, I can't support him. And the other factor that I didn't mention either is Heaney's a left-hander. we know what the White Sox have done the last 2 seasons against left-handers. Now, granted, this year it's not the same as it was last year, but they still have a winning record. I think they're 20-13 this year against lefties, but they're averaging over 5 runs a game when they face a left-hander. And it's higher than that going back to last year when they had that perfect 15-0 with the lefties. So I'm on the Yankees and Lance Lynn first 5, and I'll go ahead and ride that one out.
Yeah, I like the play. And I only brought up the Yankees run line because I just did it's called a P test. And Tony and Rob are encouraging me to call it the John Ryan test for obvious sounding reasons. But anyway, it tells you how well the parameters are working together, like whether it's coincidence that they're 16-3. And in this case, the p-value is telling me that it's due to go the other way. So even though it's 16-3, and you'll see trends all over the place for NFL from other shows, other publications, that so-and-so as a coach playing on grass is 17-1. Well, that probably means that it's going to go the other way. When you look at the deep mathematics of these things. So, with that said, I would not, anybody that likes the Yankees, I would stay away from them tonight, even though that 16-3 is there, because it's kind of meaningless. Mr. Veno.
Good afternoon, men.
I wanted to tell you, do you realize the last 10 shows, we are 27-10?
Damn, we're good.
You, me, and Finn. Even with Finn on the show, we're 27-10. Yeah, it's just amazing.
We should just stop this show. Cut it off. End of story.
Guess who? You speak of the devil. Speak of the devil when he shows up.
That'd be Lucifer to you. Mr. Lucifer, please.
Meet Marco D'Angelo, sir.
Well, hello, Mr. Marco D'Angelo.
It's 2 shows in a matter of a little over a week, Tony. I hadn't been with you paired up in months, and I got you twice in a little over a week. Well, I must have lost a bet with somebody. I don't know what happened.
Either that or is it I'm being followed again, and they've hired you.
I was just bragging. Well, first of all, we did the Field of Dreams game, and you'll probably have some insights on Haney, no. I would guess, knowing you the way I know you
Haney?
now.
I have no.
Haney,
I have no insights.
Okay.
Outsides.
Well, the insight I have is this show, 27-10. The last 10 shows we are.
Mm-hmm. How much does it cost to buy plays for the show? From the show?
It does require effort to subscribe, or so you don't miss a show.
Please sign me up because I'm going to start fading tonight. If 27-10, it's probably time to start fading John Machine Gun Kelly and Rob Veno.
What about you?
You should always be fading me. It shouldn't even be a conversation.
You had the Knicks last night, Tony. Over 4.5 Dodgers, Phillies, won, and that went over in the 4th inning. I had the under in Texas, Seattle, and that was a 2-1 game. And Boston minus 105, minus a half run. That was a football game, 20-8. 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, and I guess it was 20-1 at one point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I didn't see what happened in that game, but that game obviously clearly won.
It was 10-1 when it counted after 5 innings. So the rest, I think Tampa got 7 really late. Grand slam, maybe the 9th inning. But real quick for Tony Finn, Ian Kennedy just nailed down another save. Your favorite fly ball pitcher in Citizens Bank Park got himself into a bases-loaded jam, but found his way out. So the Phillies get one. Of course, they were blaming the umpires. Girardi got thrown out in the top of the 9th here.
He did?
Screaming at balls and strikes. Real quick to what Marco was saying about the White Sox and the Yankees tonight, because, I had to go to Bob Feller to handicap cornfield baseball in Iowa. The White Sox versus lefties, which was a good thing last year, started out as a great thing this year. I said it a couple days ago. It may become a thing again. With Luis Robert back in this lineup, with Eloy Jimenez here for now 3 weeks, and tonight in that lineup, they have 7 righties and 2 switch hitters. Cesar Hernandez obviously will hit from the right side. Yohan Moncada will hit from the right side, and Andrew Haney's numbers go up, not as drastically as the numbers that we had yesterday for Josh Fleming of Tampa Bay. But listen, lefties hit 50 points higher against this guy, 60 points better OPS against this guy if you're coming from the right-hand side. So righties against Heaney is a good thing, and the White Sox have a lineup stacked with them, and we'll see how they do against lefties down the stretch now. That lineup is completely healthy and what they projected it to be when the season started.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. You have anything to add, Mr. Finn?
No, sir, I don't. That's good stuff right there. He said it all.
Thank you, Tony.
And for those that don't know, that this is near our 1,000th show probably, and that's the first time Tony Finn said that he does not have anything else to add for any game that's ever been on the show.
I thought we were getting paid until just a few minutes ago. Now I found when I get paid, I don't have anything to say.
No more free advice.
Well,
No, I'm kidding. No, I don't really. That lefty righty Chicago White Sox last year, this year. There's a couple of those that have turned a little bit. That one turned a little bit midstream. Chicago this year. Atlanta was miserable last year. If you guys remember, against left-handers, they couldn't hit a left-hander if you put it on a tee for them, and that's changed a little bit too. So we'll, Atlanta's is a fun project right now if you're handicapping them and how you feel about them too. I haven't released. I think I released them once, but I'm enjoying watching them try to. I'll enjoy watching them make John Machine Gun Kelly probably say a few curse words and fret a little bit between now and the end of the season, because Philly will find a way to make it really interesting, even when they don't have to.
I don't know. Why does he keep insisting I'm like a diehard Philly fan? Do I act like it?
Well, yeah, we're trying to break you that. Who's your favorite team? You know the Wager Talk answer. Whoever I have my money on, that's the Wager Talk answer. Most of us. I know Marco. Marco has. We all have our biases, right? Marco kind of has a place in his heart for Pittsburgh. Some Steelers. There you're right. The Pirates. Right. Yeah. And listen,
I'm telling when they were good. Guess
you have to have a big heart, a big heart to wear that shirt.
Yeah, not with if you knew what number it was and what player it was, it's very easy. I have two jerseys like this. Stargell's one of them, but that's not the one I have on today.
Sister Sledge is the other one.
Parker.
Clemente, come on, the greatest Pittsburgh Pirate ever.
Clemente, of course.
I thought we ruled out Clemente as one of the guesses already, but Nick Cub here.
Well, listen. I don't think he's just the greatest Pirate. He's maybe one of the greatest players ever. You know, there's a guy who could hit, run, or an arm over the top. You know, wow.
From right, I was a kid whenever Clemente played, obviously, and to see go back, I saw it as a kid but didn't appreciate it, but then go back through YouTube and such and Google some of the plays. His throw from right field to third base, you just don't see that anymore. I mean, he had a cannon for an arm and accuracy to nail a runner, and and then the whole backstory of the tragic death and the Good Samaritan that he was, on and off the field, and he came up in an era that was not easy for players in that day, with his nationality and everything, and he overcame all of that, and he was a leader in Pittsburgh, and I can tell you, there's no crying in baseball from the movie League of Their Own, but I can tell you that the day that he died, I remember I was sitting on the living room floor watching TV with my dad, and when they interrupted, obviously being in Pittsburgh, it was a nationwide breaking story, but more so Pittsburgh. That's the first time that I can ever remember literally bawling my eyes out for somebody that that I didn't even really know. He was just a hero growing up as a child, and the things that he does, his legacy lives on. And his son, I got to do a radio show a couple years ago with a guy here in Vegas that has a radio show, Ken Thompson, and I was a guest on his show that night. And one of his guests that he had on the call-in, he was out promoting his book about his dad and such, was Roberto Clemente Jr. And that was one of my radio highlights of getting to chat with him. So sorry to getting on a tangent off topic, but it was a fun story for me. It's one of those things that, I've done a lot of things in my life, and that's one of the things that, you remember.
That's awesome stuff.
That throw, just to interrupt you, I'm sorry, John. The throw that you talked about, the only throw, and I didn't see that throw live from Clemente, although I was alive. I didn't see it live. I saw Bo Jackson. I was watching that game when Bo Jackson threw out Harold Reynolds at home. If you remember that throw he made from the outfield, from the left field wall, a line drive to home plate. Reynolds, I think wasn't it Reynolds? Wasn't it Harold Reynolds he threw out?
Not sure on who it was.
I think it was though, and I still kind of shake my head because I didn't think that was a possible. You don't think that throw's possible. Only a few guys can do those kind of things. Clemente had that kind of arm too. Yeah, good player. Good player.
Yeah, for anybody that's watching that wants to just go back and look up who Roberto Clemente was, if you don't know, there's a great biography on him. And Marco, you would know better than me being from the area, but in that biography, they talk about how the media would mock Roberto Clemente for his lack of being able to speak English. I think it was either a speech impediment or lack of being able to speak English. And they would basically, ridicule and mock him while he was first coming up. And that was, kind of crazy during those times, but that's the way they treated him until he became the star of the city. Then you treat guys a little bit different after that. But Roberto Clemente, the documentary is really, really good. And his death came right on the heels of a World Series win, right? I don't think it was 2 months later after they had just got his
3,000th win. If you remember, it was at the end of the season. It was either the last day or next to last day of the season. He got his 3,000th hit, and season ends, and that happened, and it is good to read the biography. And there's actually a Roberto Clemente museum in Pittsburgh if you ever get a chance to go to Pittsburgh and really see it. And his legacy carries on with the work that his foundation, in his honor, foundation that the sons have done, and the wife had carried on. So it's a good story. And, obviously you guys know I'm a Pittsburgh guy, die hard. And I've been blessed with a lot of, championship teams growing up, not so many later, but growing up, I just thought that was a rite of passage. I mean, you think about when I was a teenager in the 70s, I had 2 world championships with the Pirates. I had the Steelers, own the 70s. We were going for, I can remember the T-shirts with the championship rings when they won the first 4, and they were going with one for the thumb motto to get the 5th one. And I just thought that happened every day. And I wasn't a hockey fan back then, but, later I'm a hockey fan now because of the Vegas Golden Knights and my wife becoming a hockey fan. I was blessed with Penguin teams. I mean, you think about, for a small market city, Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby, Malkin, Jaromir Jagr. You don't get those kind of players. Those are once in a lifetime players, and we had so many of them come through Pittsburgh, a small market. And I just didn't appreciate the hockey that we had there. Marc-Andre Fleury, number 1 draft pick, for the Penguins and all those years there. And then I got to enjoy him here in Vegas. A little bummed that they traded him, and more bummed in the way they handled it. Him finding out on Twitter that he was traded. But, it's a business. That's what everybody says. And you got to remember that.
Yeah.
And John Ryan, you would love the fact, John, that they wouldn't have been able to shift Roberto Clemente because he hit the right field about as good as any right-handed hitter in that time. So there'd have been no shift on Roberto. That's for darn sure.
Definitely was not a power hitter, but boy, could he could get on base. The guy was, amazing. And once he was on base, I mean, the speed he had, on the bases. I mean, he was a complete player. Obviously Willie Stargell was the power in the lineup, but you got Clemente in front of you, Bob Robertson behind. I'll date myself, but Google sometime the World Series Do you remember Bob Robertson missing the bunt sign in the World Series and hitting the home run? I was at that game as a young pup back in '71. But Google that. He missed the bunt sign, Bob Robertson. He hadn't bunted all year, and they put the bunt sign on for him. And I don't know. I guess he didn't realize what it was, and he swung away and hit a home run.
Yeah, I remember Bob Robertson as number 7, right? First baseman number 7.
The redhead.
And Marco, real quick, how about Omar Moreno's wife becoming a folk hero during the 1979 World Series with that whistle in the stands? I mean, I remember the coverage of that, and all you would see was her blowing this coach's whistle and yelling, "Come on, sweetie," every time Omar Moreno stepped to the plate. It was hysterical. But, yeah, that's a lot of 70s memories. And Steve Blass, I think, was the anchor to that pitching staff in '71. And later on, you talk about guys who got the yips.
Yep.
He was maybe the first that I remember. Just couldn't throw anymore. Crazy how that happens.
They had him not too long ago. They had the anniversary of the championship team, and they simulated the final pitch with Steve Blass. And I was like, oh, please, God, let him get it to the plate.
It's just crazy how that happens to guys. But he was good in that World Series, that's for sure.
Well, we dated everybody here on the beginning of the show. Sorry about that, John.
We started with Pittsburgh. I think yesterday or the day before we were talking about the Pittsburgh Condors, and they weren't in existence for too long in the ABA. But a couple of years ago, because you brought up Iron Condor, Mr. Ryan. That's what it was.
I did.
Yeah, and Connie Hawkins played for the Pittsburgh Condors.
Yeah, and Iron Condor in real life is a financial term for a pretty sophisticated option strategy. So Steve Merrill and I like asking Tony Finn for definitions of various financial terms, and it's a lot of fun. But I also then took it a step further down the rabbit hole. Yeah, we go off the rails quite a bit, but it is a lot of fun. But we suggested that we're going to call or write to Ed Snyder, not Ed Snyder,
Sullivan,
Daniel Snyder. And suggest very strongly that he change his name from the football team to the Washington Iron Condors, because that sounds like a team that would be hard to beat. The football team. Was it like an in-house league? I don't like that name.
It's better than the Cleveland Guardians. Come on.
Don't even get me started. I mean, put both words on top of each other. When you can after the show, and they're pretty similar.
We all have some friends. We all have some friends from Cleveland. I have some friends from Cleveland outside of WagerTalk coworkers, and I called them. I heard that I called a couple of them and I said, "Listen, if you are the guardians of my world, then I'm moving to another planet." And they laughed, and they said, "This is what they said." They said the same thing. So these guys are saying that was. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to use that name unless they buy there's some copyright issues, I think, on the Guardians. I don't know what it is, but they just said, I don't think we're going to have that name. We're going to have something else. We're going to just call you. I still like football. You know that, you guys. I like football. I said, listen, it's like my dog. If you can't come up with a name, you just say, hey, dog, come here. Dog. We just call, hey, football. Hey, football, come here. Daniel, come here. I like that, personally.
Yeah, look what I found.
Oh, no.
That's the link for the Mr. Bunt sign. And
what?
I'm into this. Let's see. Where's the page here? It's right here. So, not your everyday sports website, but it's 3 minute 18. If I could switch off my headset, I would play it for you guys, because this looks like something really cool, because it's in black and white. And Robertson, number 7, is congratulated by teammates. Roberto Clemente, second from left of this photo. Willie Stargell, who were on base when the home run was hit. Next batter was Manny Sanguillen, is at the right. Orioles
that was a pretty good team.
Is at the far left.
In hindsight, that was a pretty good team.
Yeah, but the Baltimore team they faced, they were loaded with 20-game winners. That was one of the best pitching staffs of all time, and the Pirates went down 2-0 in that series.
Yeah, I can name you Marco, John, and Rob. We can name a pitching staff that had 3 Hall of Famers couldn't win a World Series, right? Schmaltz, Glavine, Maddox. They went to the World Series a few times. They couldn't win. Yeah.
Yeah, and that Baltimore starting staff always ends up being one of those bar rooms.
Who was on that staff? Cuellar?
Palmer,
Palmer.
Dave McNally, and Pat Dobson is the one everybody.
That's the one.
Wow. That's pretty good staff. Yeah. That's pretty good staff.
It's like naming the fearsome foursome. People forget Lamar Lundy. You can get the rest of them, but
that was a pretty good team. You're right. Was it Earl was smoking in the dugout and saying, "Listen, you just yell at me when we hit the 3-run home run. Just yell at me because that's all I care about. A couple bloops and the 3-run home run, we'll win."
That's all. Nowadays, he'd fit right in with 3-run.
Yes, he would fit right in. Yes, he would.
Manager nowadays, Earl. But Manny Sanguillen might have been, people older than me will tell me that Yogi Berra was the best bad ball hitter they ever saw. Manny Sanguillen was the best bad ball hitter I ever saw. As a kid. I mean, it didn't have to be. If it hit 5 feet before the plate, he was going to swing and hit the ball somewhere. So,
and there's not many catchers that had the speed on the bases that Manny Sanguillen had.
No.
I mean, you don't get the nickname Roadrunner for nothing. Your catcher, you're supposed to have bad knees and everything else. And he was. It was a fun time. Like I said, I was spoiled as a kid. Got used to winning.
Yeah, Vlad Guerrero, guys. Vlad Guerrero was a pretty good bad ball hitter.
Yes, he was. Yes,
very good bad ball hitter. Yeah.
Yes, he was. And while Johnny Bench was your traditional catcher, Manny Sanguillen was he brought a lot of untraditional methods to the. I mean, what an arm, and sitting with one leg stretched out, all the stuff that you would see like Pudge Rodriguez and guys like that do. Manny Sanguillen did 25 years ahead of time.
We could go on. I think all of us love baseball, and I'm trying to think. In 68 draft, 68 was the last year, and I'm really dating myself now that I can remember. 68 was the last year I went to a doubleheader, sitting in the right field bleachers at Old Municipal on 18th and Vine, and watched the A's, the Kansas City A's, and the Boston Red Sox. But in that was the same year that I was a big Munson fan. That was when he was drafted. Munson was drafted by the Yankees, and the A's. Charles Finley and the A's, they had kind of the Yankees. Charles Finley always called himself, the minor league team for the Yankees because they always supplied. Billy Martin played for the A's, but it was a funny deal. But it was funny, and so Munson. It was Charles Finley was he's the guy that had the silver shoes and the gold gloves. Had the guys wearing. He had the first woman in the booth doing color for baseball. He was a Barnum and Bailey. He was a circus guy. Whatever he could do to make a buck, he would do it. And he made a couple dollars. The mustaches when they moved to Oakland. I never liked him after he deserted me. In Kansas City in '68. It was a pretty good team. Think about it, Catfish Hunter, Joe Rudy. A lot of guys on that team were really good players. And they had the worst record in baseball in '68. With those players, worst record in baseball. They lost 98 games. Yeah.
Oh, well, Tony, you might go full cycle. You might get the A's back in your town. Only in
wow.
Vegas.
Wow. It may happen. Although you're going to spend $1 billion, aren't they? They're going to spend $1 billion on a roof. They're going to have baseball here without a roof, are we?
Yeah, not to the dog days of summer. Not here, buddy.
Nope. No. But here's the funny thing: the Area 50. Well, our other baseball team here, they seem, of course, they're AAA, so they really don't count. They're slaves. They're paid slaves. But I like that league, guys. I wish I could go to more of those. Wish I had time to go to more of those because a lot of offense in that. I like it.
It's one of the nicest minor league ballparks, if not the nicest.
Yeah.
In minor league baseball, and they're setting attendance records for, but it's new. Anything like that always is going to be. But they're putting a good product on, and it's in a nice part of town. It's easy to get to the ballpark. It's better than whenever they're playing downtown Cashman Field. And you want to talk about lineups? Can you name the Mets farm team. All the pitchers that were on that team all made it up. That you had DeGrom, Matz, Wheeler. What's the other guy? Noah Syndergaard.
Yeah.
Syndergaard.
Yeah, all those guys were on that minor league team at the same time.
Yep.
For the Mets, which I could never understand why the Mets had a farm team in Las Vegas. Because if you're calling a guy up, you got to fly him across. You got to fly him across country when you're making.
I'll take it a step further, Marco. I'll never understand why the Mets haven't won a championships with those guys since then.
That was a pretty good pitching staff. It all come up at the same time, and not be able to cash it in. They did something wrong. That's for sure.
The Yankees actually send. They have the Scranton Wilkes-Barre, I think is their AAA now, but they also have the Trenton Thunder. Mm-hmm. And Robbie, that's Double-A, right? Trenton,
I believe, is Double-A. Yes.
Yeah, it once
that's
was
good players,
Triple-A, I think, but the Phillies had Scranton Wilkes-Barre as a Triple-A, which isn't far from Philly, and then they swapped with the Yankees. The Yankees have that same stadium, and now the Phillies are in Allentown, I believe, at the Iron Pigs Stadium. Are they the Iron Pigs or something like that?
Yeah, they've always. I don't know if they're in Lehigh Valley or if they're in Allentown now. Maybe they're, but they are the Iron Pigs. They've been for a while. That's their AAA,
because
right?
Bethlehem Steel was there a long time ago. And my favorite team is, I think, in that league with Las Vegas, the Albuquerque Isotopes. Now, that's a great baseball name. Daniel Snyder ought to do that. The NFL, the new NFL name for the Washington football team is now changed to the Washington Isotopes.
And they used to be the Dukes. I don't know why that even changed to Isotopes, but it used to be the Albuquerque Dukes back.
Well, didn't one of you guys say that the Guardians is they're getting sued because of
I heard that they.
Yeah, it's the name of the female roller derby team, and they copied the logo exactly. They copied their logo, so that's why they're in a court battle.
Man, there's another thing. I'm sure all this. I miss that roller derby days. When you only got 3 channels, and there's no cable. Roller derby was kind of a hit in the household every once in a while.
Absolutely.
We have 25 people fact checking right now on Google to see if there was 3 channels.
There was only in my house. There was only 3 channels. You had to walk uphill to the TV and uphill back to your chair. And the kids, we would fight so much that we broke the turn. We had to have a pair of pliers to turn the channel. Now that's living. These
remote.
Yeah, remote.
Yeah,
we're lucky to have electricity.
It was me.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
I remembered those days. My father would go on the roof to try and bring in the signal for the Giants game, and you'd have to wrap the aluminum foil on the rabbit ears, and all the snow would be on the screen. He's like, "Is it clear yet?" No, not clear yet, Dad. But you'd finally get a half-ass picture, and you'd watch the Giants game.
Stop! Don't move! Hold it right there.
Absolutely. Down the ladder.
Yeah.
I thought my dad was the only one to put the foil on the rabbit
ears. It
ears.
was back then, Marco.
Yeah,
I think for a lot of us, that's the way it was, boy.
When cable became prevalent, okay, and relevant, in let's say 77, right in that area, 76, 77, 78, we got cable. And my dad and mom had divorced in 76, and we got cable, and I lived with my dad. And I went home one day after school. I think I was a senior in high school, just getting enough practice or something. But he had this ohm or 5 ohm. He had this wire coming out of the back of the television with the cables attached to it, and he was adjusting and I don't remember, it was a certain ohm wire. He was adjusting it so he could steal. It's my dad now. If you're listening, Dad, I love you. But he was trying to steal HBO. Back then, that was a big, wasn't about to pay for HBO. Had to pay, you had to pay a week's salary for cable. That was enough, probably. And then he got it. He did it, and he got it. And who in their right mind today would watch? And let me tell you, he got it. But the picture was so bad, and all we wanted to do was sit there and watch this fuzzy, snowy, horrible picture. and we could tell our neighbors, "Well, watched HBO this afternoon. Got HBO over the house." Yeah.
You guys know, you said
Bad.
1976, and it struck a memory with me. You guys know who Brian Roberts of Comcast is, right?
No.
Chairman of the board of Comcast.
Oh,
His
yeah.
father-
Him. Oh, yeah, I know him. Yeah, best friend.
His father founded the company. So back in the 70s, obviously his dad's founding this thing. And, I went to a private school, as you guys know, that was, an athlete factory and also academia factory. And the kid, Brian Roberts, who's now the CEO, got mocked so bad that his dad was a lunatic and nobody in their right mind would ever watch 40 channels. And that this was the most ridiculous thing anyone could ever think of.
Yeah. Yeah. I had friends who, when cable came, when it was time for, they'd wired the whole city, right? They worked for the cable company, and they would go door to door. This is go door to door and sell subs of cable. And they would come to I'd be at work or I'd be at school. I'm 17, 18 years old, I'm young and I'm strong and smart. Now it's all gone. I don't know what happened, but I'm sitting there and they come in for the beer because back there you only had to be 18 and you could be at the bar, but they only sold beer. You couldn't. There was no liquor, but that's what they had back in Missouri, Kansas, that area, Kansas City. But they'd come in and they would brag about, oh man, I sold this much. This is how much money I made today. And one day I got so tired of them, I said, dude, you don't have to sell anything. All you have to do is show up at the door, and the ladies bum rush you. They'll kiss you. They'll say, finally you showed up. You don't have to sell it. You're selling cable. If you don't sell, if you go to the door and don't sell it, you're bad. You need to be fired because everyone bought it. They weren't selling anything. They were just collecting money. It was funny, but they did make some bank during that couple, that 2 or 3 years of first cable, and then finally, cable realized, hey man, we don't really have to sell it. We don't have to pay these guys. People are just buying this stuff like it's pixie dust, like it's magic,
Well, Tony, in addition to pixie dust, there's actually NFL football games taking place tonight.
I know.
And I refuse to talk about Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
Because?
Unless Marco would like to talk about it, because they're both in the state of Pennsylvania, and I'm starting a new line of thought. I don't want to be considered a homer of the Philadelphia Eagles.
You'll learn.
This all started because I defended Ben Simmons. And then
you didn't defend Ben Simmons. You told us you were sleeping with him.
Well, I don't think I went that far. You might have started the rumor on Twitter.
It sure felt like it. It's just one of those things where, wow, this guy really is.
When you get 300 direct messages from people you don't know saying, is it really true about you and Ben Simmons? I knew it had to come from somewhere. But I think there's a better game.
There's only one other game.
The game is actually Friday. And it starts at 7 o'clock. Buffalo, the
Dallas,
new dominant
Arizona.
force in the AFC East, is taking on that team from Detroit that needs help.
We go by
help.
Pacific time here. We don't use Eastern time. It's
well,
not 7 o'clock.
Four right after your nap. You'll wake up and it'll start at 4 o'clock Pacific time. So this line opened at -1.5. Looking at the WagerTalk.com/odds board. And a total of 36.5. It's now still 36.5, but the line has crossed over to Detroit, -1.5. Mm-hmm. Now, is this a situation where a losing team is trying to start some positive karma? And I'd like to start with Marco on this, then we'll go around the horn.
Yeah, guys, this is a game, for me, when you handicap preseason football, it's the only time of the year that, you might have one team that is motivated and wants to win and another team that doesn't care. And what I'm looking at with the Buffalo Bills is, anybody that's been a Buffalo Bill fan for a long time, it's been quite a drought since those 4 Super Bowl appearances in which you lost all of those Super Bowls. But they finally had success. They broke through last year, won the division, went to the playoffs and such. And now it's a different, atmosphere there. They are the team to beat again this year, entering the season. the AFC East simply because the other teams aren't strong. New England, fell off last year after Brady left. They'll be better this year, but will they be good enough to close the gap back with Buffalo? We'll have to wait and see. But Sean McDermott doesn't have to prove anything in the preseason. He's not going to get Josh Allen hurt. And he's even talked about experimenting with some different players on the offensive line. And when you hear coaches talking like that, that's telling me that this is not a priority. We're just going to tinker and see things and get things worked out and prepare for the regular season. We don't care about the preseason. For Detroit, as you said, this is a team that's been losing for a long time. This is a team that finally got rid of the coach, Matt Patricia. I don't know how he lasted as long as he did there, but now there's a new attitude. They traded away what was the face of the franchise with the quarterback, and they brought in Jared Goff, a guy that I'm not a real big fan of over the years. I thought he was soft and everything else in L.A. He had too good of a team not to get more winning success there. But it's a new place. It's a new start, fresh start for everybody, new head coach. They're going to want to get Goff some reps to learn the system. It's a new offensive system for him, get him acclimated with his teammates. I think Detroit is a good play on Friday. I think they want to instill that winning attitude in the ball club, something that they haven't had. And when you trade away the face of the franchise, the one guy that they could count on, Detroit needs to have some hope with that team for the fan base. And I think they're going to put forth a good effort tomorrow, and you've seen that in the betting market. I'm generally not a fan of watching line moves because, to be honest with you, how many times you see everybody line up on one side, everybody's saying the same thing, and everybody's running to the window. We know what happens too often. That game goes down the drain. But in football, in the preseason, it does happen a lot, and they are correct a lot. We saw that on the opening game last week with the Steelers in Dallas. Once people, started talking about the lineups and the rotations and everything, we saw money come in on Pittsburgh. It was basically going to be a home game for the Steelers, being so close to Canton, Ohio. But I was on the under in that game because I knew the Steelers' game plan. They were going to keep it simple. The Steelers are working a brand new offensive line, and everybody knew that. And what'd you see? You saw the total crash 2.5 or 3 points by game day. Is the market, everybody started piggybacking everybody with the same thought. So I'm not upset about the game being crossed, the line crossing, but I will tell you guys this. I like Detroit on Friday. I'm going to tell you that this preseason, do not lay -1, 1.5, or 2 on any wager. If you're in that line, go ahead and lay the extra 10 or 15 cents and lay the money line in preseason. The reason for that is these teams will not play to overtime. And also this year, there isn't an overtime, okay? In years past, they always went for 2 anyways if it came down to that situation because they didn't want to play overtime. Even if it finishes in a tie, no overtime this year. So if you're sitting with a favorite at -1 or 1.5 and you're in that situation at the end of the game, there's no scenario that's going to make you a winner. So don't lay it, go money line. You don't want to, even if they go for 2 and win by 1, you're going to lose the 1.5. So little added insurance policy for the extra 10 to 15 cents that you might lay on a money line on that. That's the other tip I give to you for the preseason.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Rob Veno, you want to take over on this?
Yeah, Marco covered a lot of the ground. I mean, there's a certain set of guidelines I think every one of us in the industry for more than, a couple hours have followed. And, you have 7 new head coaches this year, and some of them are in situations that have been losing cultures. And for a long time, it's been play on the head coach that's trying to develop a winning culture. I've liked Dan Campbell since his press conference the day he was hired by Detroit. I like the fact that the whole world thinks they're going to be so horrible this year, because I think there's going to be great value when the regular season comes on Detroit. But it's a complete overhaul with the Lions, right? No longer are we going to see the ball thrown up and down the field 45 times a game. This is a run-heavy, play defense type of style he's trying to develop here, and you're going to see that right away. I think for the Bills, and another part of this equation, Marco went through a bunch of them, but is always quarterback situations, right? And where the Buffalo Bills are concerned, yes, Josh Allen isn't playing, but Mitchell Trubisky's going to start. And for Mitch Trubisky, it's a new place, a new era. All reports out of training camp are he's been really good. Sean McDermott has said that players will play on an individual basis, but not much. Again, to reiterate what Marco was saying, it's a team that doesn't have anything to prove, so why risk health? But it is interesting, guys, with this 3-week preseason rather than 4. I mean, we used to be able to know exactly what was going to happen week 1, week 2, week 3, dress rehearsal, week 4, nobody plays. It's a little different seeing how many starting quarterbacks are going to open up right away here in week 1 and at least play a couple of series. But where the Bills are concerned, like I say, Mitch Trubisky's out there to make a name for himself against a defense that, is in a brand new system. So you could see Buffalo, even without Josh Allen, maybe doing a little bit of first half damage scoring wise. I do agree a little bit with the line move, though. If I was going to play the game sidewise, I would look at Detroit, and I think everybody should take the advice that Marco just gave on 1 and 2 point numbers, 1, 1.5, 2. Again, these teams have never played to tie if they score late in the game in preseason. And obviously they can't this year. So you get a lot of situations where you have a 17-16 game. I mean, the preseason scoring history shows you a bunch of these as examples. So play money line rather than lay points. And if you like the dog, you're better off playing the money line and taking price. So I think Detroit, the move, the steam here, it's probably the way I would lean, but I don't want to sell Trubisky short if he plays a couple of series here with a starting offensive line or with a couple of wide receivers against a Detroit defense that is learning a brand new system week 1, first time on the field to try and execute it. So we'll see. Maybe first half over. I could look it up here real quick. I don't know that first half numbers. Yeah, well, they're out there, at least for these 2 games. But see, like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday games don't even have first half numbers or totals yet. So you have to wait till game day to see what they could be. But maybe a first half over in the Buffalo-Detroit game might be something to look at as well.
Hey, Rob, you mentioned about the 3-week preseason this year. And I had this conversation, Ralph and I, and probably was actually at a pub when we're talking with Ralph and we throw things around. And we were talking about the 3-week schedule for the preseason this year. And my thoughts on it were, I think we're going to see exactly what we always saw. First week was going to be what we normally would see in the first week. Second week be the second week. Week 3 be the dress rehearsal. And then because there's not a 4th game where in most teams, there was a few coaches that still played players in that 4th game, but the 4th game was always the complete throwaway. And because we don't have that game this year, we have an extra week before the season starts. We have the 3 preseason games, then a week off, so they have an extra week to rest. I think they stay with the exact same schedule where week 3, which is going to be the final week, but it is the 3-week where it was the dress rehearsal. That's what we're going to see. And then those starters have the extra week to recuperate anyways.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And the good news about preseason, as always, guys, is the coaches are going to let us know their intentions. It's the only time of year where we get to know ahead of time what they plan on doing, because they're not sharing game plans during the season. That's all guesswork. And Bill Belichick was a guy I know a couple of years who threw Brady out there in week 4 against an opponent that was, just trying to grind the roster down to 53 and playing all the newcomers. So it will be interesting to see how they handle it for sure. But if 3 does stay the dress rehearsal, then we'll have a real good set of games week 3.
You were talking the over, right, Rob?
Well, I think a first half over might work just because Trubisky's looked good in camp. And I know Trubisky's, there's a bad stigma attached to his name, right? I mean, ask 100 people who watch NFL football, and 90 responses about Mitchell Trubisky are going to be negative. So he's in a new place. He's got a chance for a new start. He's going to be the starter in this game. And at least for a couple of series he'll go. You would think that he would want to put together – would want to. That doesn't mean he's going to, but the intention is there to score some points and look better. He's on a better team now, better offensive line, better everything. But and
he's not the guy. He doesn't have the pressure of being the guy.
Absolutely. We know who the guy is. He just got paid last week, and it's pretty obvious who the guy is in that place, boy. So, yeah, John, first half, I mean, if he comes up with a 7 – and you're staring at a 16.5 or whatever you're looking for only 10 points after that. And I'm sure the Lions are maybe they're probably will be a little disorganized. Like I say, when you overhaul two systems, it's not easy. They get a lot more practice in than the college kids do in the fall. So maybe they can learn it a little better, but it works both ways. Their defense might be ragged against the Bills' offense, and their offense, the Bills have really, there's nothing to go to. I don't know that they even go to tape for stuff like this. They probably don't. But there's nothing to learn on the Lions. It's completely new offensively. A lot of running. Dan Campbell comes off as a man's man, right? We're going to be tough. We're going to block. We're going to tackle. We're going to do this. We're going to run the football. Case closed. Throw some play-action passes, which is where Jared Goff excels, by the way, guys. He's not a downfield thrower, but if you're going to ask him to throw short passes and dump off the backs and stuff and sprint out and stuff like that, could be a pretty good plan for him up in Detroit.
I like it a lot. Mr. Finn, you're on deck here if you want to add anything to it, but we've covered it pretty well.
Yeah, you did. First off, Josh Allen's not going to play. I don't know if anybody said that. I think they basically said he wasn't going to. He's not playing at all, from what I understand. You're not going to see. You're not going to see Singletary. You're not going to see Diggs. You're not going to see Perry. You're not going to see much of anything from Buffalo. And what you're going to see, from what I understand, Campbell has already been pretty transparent. He's playing his starters first quarter. That's a lot for essentially for what is it, week 1, not a week 0, but a week 1. And as Rob said, as Marco said, this is the coach that needs to the culture needs to be changed. There's some decisions that need to be made, and part of that is putting some of those guys out there and helping them understand with the winners. And golf is one of those guys. So it's funny, you guys. I listened to everything Marco and you said, Rob, and there's some things I'd love to talk about. I won't talk about them right now. I won't. And that's some of these coaches have been really transparent during and if you do a lot of what I do, which is converse with some beat writers or read a lot of the transcripts from the pressers, from the media pressers, I think the Rams have been, if you trust McVay like I do, typically he does what he says he's going to do, then the Rams are maybe they're the number 1 fade in this preseason. We'll see how the numbers are. We'll see if the odds makers respond to that statement by the Rams head coach.
Yeah, the bettors ran there quick, right? They ran to the Chargers quick from 1 all the way up to 4 because, as you said, Tony, if he lives by what he said, Sean McVay's not playing anybody. He's not looking to do anything other than vanilla, 1, 2, 3, and let's play. Where, as we mentioned, the Lions, Dan Campbell's not worried about injuries, guys.
No.
We're going to throw you all out there, and we're going to try and weed out what we have. It's a process that's got to be gone through. Other coaches are very careful. Aaron Rodgers won't play a single game, right? I think we saw that. But to your point real quick, Tony, I think the other day I was talking with Teddy on WagerTalk today, and it's just interesting to me, week 1, I think we have heard more openness from coaches heading into games in week 1 than we've heard in a long, long time. And it's good for us.
Yeah.
You want to
I was with Marco. I was with Marco on that under, and I thought that was the play too, Marco. And I think you put it out early enough to get. I checked. I think you got the 33. I got a 32.5. I think is what I got. I believe it may have been a 32, but that's a pretty small number. And Pretty small number to be going under, but
And we never sweated it either.
No, well,
Thanks to the kicking game.
Yeah, the first few minutes of that second half, when they came out, Pittsburgh came out and scored. They scored in the first 4 minutes of the second half, and then they scored again. I said, "Yeah, can't happen." I remember saying to myself, I said, I kind of did that head tilt that a dog does when they're, "What the hell's going on?" kind of thing, Then I said, "Don't even go there because it can't happen."
Yeah, that kicking game was brutal, Marco. Some of those kicks, I think I could have shanked a couple that bad. Oh my goodness!
It was not just Pittsburgh. I mean, both teams. It was horrible. A lot of guys looking for jobs.
Wow, not good stuff.
Well, that's with the time we have left. Let's go around the horn. We'll start with Marco for the show best bets, and I will write them down. I know Marco has a choice of two, so we want to make sure that we can do two. We can do both. We can.
We'll go with the field. We're going to go with the field of dreams tonight. I'm taking the White Sox first 5 -1/2.
First 5 -1/2. Did I say we're 27-10 on this show?
You might have mentioned that.
Just to mention it again if you want.
Yeah. There's some nights I write down the plays and I think, well, 3-1 maybe, 2-2, and then this morning I was going through it and 4-0. I was like, whoa! And we covered every sport. Yeah,
you act like 3-1. You act like 3-1's a bad thing.
Well, I mean, there's some people that are like that.
I don't know them. Not any sane person, by the way.
No, I mean people that buy picks for the first time.
Oh well, they're not people. They're dreamers. Those are dreamers.
Well, they are what they are.
Yes, they are.
And we appreciate them.
Oh, of course, we love dreamers.
All right, so there's that one. We'll go down to Rob Veno now for his best bet for tonight.
Yeah, there's little to choose from on the Major League Baseball card, only because there's so much day baseball. I will second what Marco's saying. I actually have a play on White Sox -1/2 a run, first 5, so I'm in line with that. But I'll go to football, and I'll show you why. I just talked for like 15 minutes about coaches that want to establish cultures. And it's why in this business we don't make blanket statements about anything. Everything is situational, everything is individual, and you got to take each game as its own entity. But I'm still one of those longtime handicappers that likes when a game is in their second game and the other team is in their first. Used to be a real thing. Hasn't been as much of a thing as of late. But the Steelers are in their second football game here, and they got to see what the Eagles are looking to see for themselves on their about their team here tonight. So I think the Steelers are a step ahead of Philadelphia. Nick Sirianni, of course, you would throw my previous argument about the Lions right back at me and say, but Nick Sirianni's trying to create a different culture. And sure he is. There's a lot of moving pieces on the Philadelphia Eagles right now, a lot of moving pieces on offense and defense. And it's still not a good linebacking core, and you're going to immediately get into the backups, which isn't good for the Eagles. Najee Harris, to me, what I saw of the Steelers last week, guys, and they had a chance to score a touchdown at the end. Joshua Dobbs had them right down inside the 10-yard line again. They went 4 downs. I think they had 3rd and half a yard, didn't get it. Went for it on 4th, didn't get it. But their quarterbacking all the way through is pretty solid. And I think that's good news for the Steelers here. It's there's a number out there that Pittsburgh hasn't won in Philadelphia, I think 9 consecutive games. But I think that changes here tonight. The Eagles are actually the favorite in this one, so I think Pittsburgh money line's the way to go. Again, I'm just going to stick to an old adage where they used to call it team with the game under their belt. You'd have a headline in a preseason magazine. I think guys like Mark Lawrence used to keep numbers on that. But I still, in cases, I think it still works, and I think it'll work tonight. So give me the Steelers money line against the Eagles here. I just think there's too much evaluation going on with the Eagles, and Pittsburgh got a lot of evaluation out of the way, especially as Marco talked about with that offensive line last week, because that has been maybe the most talked about thing this preseason, where people frown on the Steelers. And believe me, the sentiment towards the Steelers regular season is not good. but I don't know that I buy that either because their offensive line was lousy last year, so who cares if you lose them all? You got Trey Turner in there, and Trey Turner's better than any lineman they had playing for them last year. So we'll see what Najee Harris and company can do, but I'll take the Steelers' money line tonight over the Eagles.
Sounds good, Rob. I like that pick. I'm with you on that one. Let's see what Tony Finn has for us.
Well, this is what I'm going to play, what I already played, and I'll go ahead and give it away as a free pick. And I'm going to I'm going to go to the NFL preseason, guys. It's Pittsburgh at Philadelphia, a game that you said you'd stay away from, Mr. Shotgun Kelly, because you didn't want us to be calling you soft and a homer and
weak.
And we didn't want you to piss off your wife, who plays basketball. She was a pretty tall girl, by the way, and never mind. I'm not going to go there. We're going to stay with the Philadelphia and Pittsburgh game. And if you notice this game, this is one of these games, guys, and I know all you guys watch this, but Mark will even say he doesn't really pay attention to those linemen, but I know he knows and he sees all. And July 22nd, I think, is the date that Penny, for instance, put this line out. It wasn't so much the line because Penny put the line out as Philly -1 then, but line was 33.5 was the total. Now it didn't move really until last week, the 6th, which would have been just about a week ago, and it moved just a little bit. It didn't move a lot really at all on the 6th. It jumped on the 8th, the point went from 33.5 to 34.5, right? And then I started paying attention to it a little bit, and I made some inquiries, and then it moved another point on the 9th, the day later. And then the 10th, it didn't really move at all. But on the 11th, there was constant money coming in on the over. And it's a little more difficult in the preseason to know whether it's sharp money or just public. But in this case here, most of the people I spoke to that I respect, and they have some knowledge that this is really a kind of a combination of both. They didn't think there was a lot of public money coming in on Pittsburgh and Philadelphia in week 1 of the NFL preseason. I told them, don't be surprised. It's Pittsburgh and it's Philadelphia. But it moved to 35 on the end of that on the day on August 11th, which was yesterday. Last night it moved to 30. I think I'm right, 35 or something like that. And now we're at 36 of the day of the game. So my question to you is why is this line moved 2.5? Gotten very little attention. At least if it's gotten attention, it's not attention that's been in my orbit. So I played this over when it got to 34.5, and I didn't release it, but I'm going to give it out as a free play. I'm going to write it up and I'm going to put it into the WagerTalk site here in the next hour, and people can make their have their own opinions. But I was kind of hoping to hear something from one of you three on the total in this game. I didn't hear anything. So if you have anything you want to call me crazy or call me or tell me I've made a mistake or maybe that there's a chance I might be right, I'm listening.
I'll call you crazy just for the sake of calling you crazy. But
okay.
I will tell you that the one thing the Steelers are going to have, and last week I was worried about it a little bit when we got to the second half. I think the Steelers are going to be a good second half team in the preseason this year because of the quarterback rotation. We're not going to see a lot of Big Ben. You're probably not going to see any of Ben again tonight. But you look at the quarterback rotation. You have Mason Rudolph, who started several games when Ben was hurt over the last 2 seasons. You have Dwayne Haskins, who the Steelers picked up, a mobile quarterback, somebody that can make things happen when defenses break down, and he's trying to latch onto the team. And probably the smartest quarterback of the three, Joshua Dobbs, who's been in the Pittsburgh system forever. He's been a journeyman backup. They traded him away a couple years ago. Then the very next week, Ben goes down for most of the season. And, they didn't have him there as the insurance policy and had to go with Mason Rudolph. So you have all three of those quarterbacks. They pose a threat in the second half of games when you're looking at third and fourth string units. And that would bode well for a second half wager on Pittsburgh. If they're losing at halftime, you might get attractive number or live bet it in game. And as Tony said, he's looking at the over. Yes, even though I think the Steelers are going to have trouble scoring this year at the beginning of the season because of the offensive line until it gets that cohesiveness and they gel. In preseason, that's a different story because you're going against third and fourth string players at certain points of the game, and that can be compensated by a good quarterback that can make plays. So I agree with you, Tony.
Thank you.
Not often.
You reiterated. Listen, you've backed up, supported a lot of things I believe to be true. I also believe that to be true about Pittsburgh. The fact is that no one threw the ball faster, or no one had the ball in their hand less from snap to pass than Big Ben last year because of the new scheme and the offensive line. 1.7 seconds is ridiculously fast. You know what I mean? So you're going to see a lot of that until that offensive line either shows they're more capable or or they bring back the Hogs or something. I don't know.
Real quick, guys. Marco, when you said Joshua Dobbs is the smartest of the quarterbacks, and he's right because the guy's an actual rocket scientist. Yeah. I mean, his degree is in like aerospace engine or something outrageously smart. So
he wants to be an astronaut.
No, he's a bright guy, Joshua Dobbs. And like we said before, he led them to a touchdown last week and could have led them to a second touchdown. And I know they got the ball on the 20-yard line or something when they started those drives. Dallas went for it on a fourth down and didn't convert, and Pittsburgh got it back. But still, when you're playing with guys like that in the fourth quarter, real quick here, Marco, one thing I want to ask you, you're the Pittsburgh guy, I'll ask you. Earlier this week or maybe over the weekend, James Washington, wide receiver from Oklahoma State, was reported he wants out. And then it came out the next day. No, they don't even – I think it was Mike Tomlin who said, don't even worry about it. There's nothing wrong with James Washington. It would seem to me – and, again, I'd love for him to have time tonight on the same unit with Mason Rudolph because they're teammates from OSU, and you would think that Mason Rudolph would get him the ball and make him happy and change his attitude if there is an attitude there. But I would think that perhaps we see James Washington, who's a home run threat whenever he catches the ball, maybe be second half a little bit featured with these quarterbacks, and maybe Pittsburgh will strike for a big play. Just it's an out of the box thought, but when I read that, I thought, maybe they'll try and get James Washington going here to change his attitude. I don't know if you have anything further on his status with this team, or if he really wanted out, or if it was just a bunch of nonsense, a guy mad after practice. I honestly don't know.
He's not getting the playing time, Rob, that he thinks he should be getting. And the problem is he just hasn't produced it on the field on a consistent basis. You see those plays that you talk about with the breakaway, the big play capabilities, but too often he drops, the easy one that he shouldn't. And if you look at the receiving core, you have Juju, who you just threw a lot of money at. You've got Claypool, who was a major surprise to how good he played last season. And then they got Johnson. They just can't get him on the field. And it's a nice problem to have, with the Steelers, and that's why they're deep. But as far as Tomlin says, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. He's had to deal with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. James Washington isn't a problem. That's not a problem. That's like, having a little puppy dog compared to what he's had to deal with over the last few years. So Mike Tomlin will take care of things. But, if the right offer comes around, somebody loses a wide receiver in preseason that needs a pickup, that he could be good trade bait, somewhere down the road. So he'll get time, he'll get the ball, but he's just not like any athlete. They want the ball more than they believe that they're getting it. And, that's what you want to see, but it's just the facts of it. He's not as good as the other two. And I think when it's said and done, Claypool, we've had a lot of, good receivers come through Pittsburgh, and it's always a chain of command, Rob. What people don't understand, we had it with Antonio Brown was great. But if you remember, Antonio Brown was great when he got his big jump when he was the number 2 receiver behind Mike Wallace. Okay? There's always a guy in front of you that's getting the double team. And then Juju had the big year when Antonio Brown was getting all the double teams, and he became the number 2. Now Juju's the number 1, and Claypool was the guy. He's the rookie. Nobody, knew what to expect, and he wasn't getting the coverages. This will be the key season with Claypool to see how good he really is going to be, because defenses now are going to be prepared for him. Last year, he was an afterthought, first half of the season. He was lighting everybody up. Let's see what happens when more people game plan their defense to respect him more than they did last year. And that's just the problem that it is. And Washington just never took that step when he had the opportunity to be the number 2 receiver. He didn't make those plays.
Yeah, and I think they found gold last year that they didn't know they had with Deontay Johnson, too. I mean, and that's a guy who went through a lot of drops problems at the end of last year, but they let him play through it. He made some big catches in that first game. And Claypool made a tremendous catch in that first game against Dallas last week. But real quick, just to go back to what Marco said about Pittsburgh maybe being a good second-half team, James Washington is going to get his opportunity in the second half against Philly's backup secondary, and maybe at that point we'll see something here. So, this thing all plays full circle. You want to have good quarterback play at the end of games, and you want to have guys that can make plays at the end of games, because you don't want to be on a team that's going to blow a lead. Pittsburgh just looks like the type of team that can. In fact, last week I think they were behind at halftime.
Yeah,
and came back and won the game. So pretty good second-half team. Maybe we'll be on the lookout for them. I think they're a good spot tonight overall, money line play.
Yeah. And I like the Steelers plus 5-1 to win the division, if nothing else, because everybody else thinks the Ravens, and then Cleveland, and then there's the Steelers, and then I guess Cincinnati is like 22-1. And a question just for Marco before I do my free pick. Do you think Pittsburgh is a good bet at plus 500 to win the division?
I don't think they can win the division this year. I think that not only are they a good second half team in the games in preseason, I think they'll be a better second half team second half of the season once that offense gets the offensive line, because last year they couldn't run the football at all. You cannot win in the NFL throwing the football on every down, basically what they were doing last year. They had no running game. Part of it was injuries to James Conner, who's gone, and that's why they spent the draft pick on getting the Alabama running back Harris. But you still can't run the football if you don't got anybody that can block for you. And what's bad for the Steelers is not only is it all new players. There's one holdover, but he's going to play a different position on the offensive line this year. So basically you're starting with 5 new players that have to learn the blocking schemes. And the biggest thing that they're going to miss is center Pouncey. Pouncey was an all-pro year in and year out, and people don't put enough emphasis on the offensive line. I always say that if you don't have a good offensive line, it's like trying to drive a car with a flat tire. It's just not going to go. And when you're replacing all of those players and the guy that, let's be honest, is the second quarterback on the field, when the center is the second quarterback. The quarterback's calling the plays, but it's the center that's yelling out the blocking assignments when they get to the line of scrimmage. And you're going to see some missed assignments. You're going to see Big Ben get hit a few times this year. And I just hope he doesn't get hurt. And the lanes are not going to be there for Harris at the beginning. But the second half of the season, as they gel, this will be a team that I'll look to play on that's going to build up equity because of what people saw at the beginning of the season. That's the biggest mistake people make. They watch one game and they draw a conclusion of, oh, this team is what I just saw. And that's why I've coined the saying that I've said on every show that I've ever done. No team is ever as good as their best game, or are they as bad as their worst performance. Don't overreact to what you saw on one game. I love to watch teams that get embarrassed and look horrible on a Monday night game or a Sunday night game and look at them the next week, because the entire nation saw that and draw a conclusion from it that they're that bad or that good. And you get built-in line value. And as the season goes on, if the Steelers start the season out, 2-4, 3-5, something like that, they're going to get lost in the shuffle, and there'll be value with them later because Mike Tomlin is a good coach in getting a team prepared. He's bad when it comes to in-game. I don't like him in-game decisions. That's where he makes mistakes. And as bad as they were in that playoff game last year against Cleveland, and that will be a game I'll have circled when they play the Browns for the rematch in Pittsburgh, because that was a bad taste in their mouth, down 28-0. They had all the momentum in the world in that game, and he had a decision to make early in the fourth quarter when it was like 4th and 4 on their side of the 50, but it was like at the 46-yard line. And he elected to punt the football, and it took all the wind back out of the sails of the Steelers, because if they convert and score on that and make it a one-possession game, at that point in that game, Cleveland crumbles because of all of the history, bad history that they had, in Pittsburgh playing. And he just gave all the momentum back to Cleveland when he punted. And what happened? Yeah, he punted them inside the 10-yard line, and they went on almost a 90-yard drive and put the game away.
John, real quick, I'll add to that for you, because I'm somebody that's fairly pro-Steelers this year. Just because, and you would love this, because if you run one of your negative sentiment charts that you love to run, you'll probably find it pretty high. Is that the Steeler chart? Is that it? Or is that an example?
That's the Mets.
But let me say this real quick. And you know what? I never even thought of it the way Marco just presented it, but I hope it works out that way, where you get extra value point spread-wise with Pittsburgh later on. I mean, I'm thinking about playing them right out of the chute, not necessarily to win the division, but week-to-week point spread-wise. Listen, the offensive coordinator there now is Matt Canada, and everything's different for the Steelers this year. In other words, game tape is going to be useless to early opponents on the Pittsburgh Steelers. On Matt Canada, remember, Ed Orgeron chased him out of LSU because Matt Canada is a guy who runs a lot of formations, a lot of motions, a lot of stuff that, quite frankly, LSU's personnel couldn't understand. So they had to get him the heck out of that place. And he ended up in Pittsburgh, and he's the quarterback's coach last year, and now he takes over as the offensive coordinator. I saw an interview with Ben Roethlisberger the other day where he said, there's a lot of terminology switches. There's a lot of differences, but there's nuances here that should help that running game develop fairly quickly. And you may see the running game in a lot of forms. Like I say, this guy's a guy who runs a lot of jet sweeps. They've got receivers that can do that, all kinds of stuff. It might look more like Kansas City than looking like old-time Pittsburgh Steelers. But despite the fact that they had no offensive line, and Big Ben, as Tony said, was getting rid of the ball in record time, 1.7 seconds. This team somehow still found their way to 11-0. And to me, their whole demise correlates with that Devin Bush injury. Devin Bush is back at linebacker this year. And, the guy who took his place last year, Robert Spillane, made one of the best hits. You just look up Robert Spillane on YouTube and you find that hit where he plugs the middle on the goal line. Robert Spillane is in that linebacking core now as well. So this defense, while everybody wants to talk about how lousy the offensive line is, this defense will keep them in any game. It's a terrific defense. Where AFC defenses are concerned, the Denver Broncos have been the team this summer, I think, that a lot of people, including myself, have pointed to. But Pittsburgh's right there. So you take their defense. If they can learn this system, that's probably the biggest question mark, right, early on. Can they learn it fast enough to come out of the gate and trick teams that won't know what the heck they're seeing? Three games in, everybody's got game film. It's another story. But where Pittsburgh's concerned, they could be deceptively good. And I just hope, those of us in the business always hope that ESPN and all their shows talk one way enough to create value for us as bettors, because they got some influence on the betting public, the $50 Joe. They got a lot of influence. And the more these shows come on that network and other networks telling you how bad the Steelers are going to be, the happier somebody like me gets when I kind of like the Steelers. So we'll see how it goes, but I don't know that I could be on them plus 500 to win the division. You'd probably need Lamar Jackson to get hurt, Baker Mayfield to get hurt. A whole host of things could happen.
Rob, just want to add one thing to you about Matt Canada. If you remember, the reason he got the job at LSU is because he was all the rage when he was the offensive coordinator at Pitt. And they were scoring points, the Panthers. Granted, that was against ACC defenses, but he made the Pitt quarterback I think it was Peterson at the time, looked good, and James Conner had that monster year. So they had the path, and you're correct about the motions. The one thing that you did make one mistake on, you were correct on the Devin Bush injury last year. That turned the team around when he got hurt, and I was all over that when it happened. But the other thing that hurt the Steelers, and one thing about Bush, he's not here anymore. He signed elsewhere, and I'm blanking on where he went.
Bud Dupree. Bud signed elsewhere. Yeah, Devin Bush is back, but Bud Dupree, he signed with Tennessee.
Yeah, you're right. I got the two mixed up. The situation, though, for the Steelers, their demise was when they got screwed with the COVID rescheduling. They got screwed where they kept moving their games, and the Steelers had to play that Wednesday game, if you remember, because they accommodated Baltimore and everything, and then they had to come back on a short week and play Washington. That is what, to me, was the demise of the Steelers. It was after that game, the 11th week, they weren't the same team after that. And the NFL should never, changed everything around to accommodate. You know what? If you didn't follow the protocols, you got COVID. It was a bad situation. It was an outlier of the season, and I think that's why the NFL talked about this year that there's going to be forfeits if you have the problems. And you know what? Why penalize two teams? The team that did everything right and didn't have the COVID issues got penalized, and the other team got a chance to, it's a bad break for everybody, but why make it a bad break for two teams?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember that game was like a Wednesday afternoon
Yep.
at 4:30 here on the East Coast, so 1:30 Pacific time, and they accommodated and a divisional rival at that. I mean, to accommodate them. So, NFL teams are creatures of habit. The scheduling, the practice, everything is down to a T with these teams, and to have it disrupted like that.
And they changed dates, and they changed, they'd say, oh, we're going to play on, move a game, because one of the games was Thursday. They were supposed to play Baltimore, if you remember. That was Thanksgiving night. That was supposed to be the Thanksgiving night game and stuff. And it just, you keep moving stuff around. It's not fair for the organization. But that's the homer in me. But I think it's not really truly being a homer there. It's not fair for any team.
No. Denver had to play with no quarterback one week, right? That was
and yet they moved the game three different times for Baltimore.
Right. No, that's some of the hypocrisy of the NFL.
Well,
there it is.
That's why Ralph Michaels says you never bet against Harbaugh.
This is true.
Right?
He's a great preseason coach.
Speaking of which, you mentioned him before, I wanted to give a shout out to the gold sheet here. This is a download that you can get on Ralph Michaels' page, and these preseason guides are free of charge, and they're valuable resources. This is the stuff that Ralph uses, and a lot of us use too. And it's just a great publication. There's also a much bigger one for college football that was out maybe the better part of 5 weeks ago, and it's free. And WagerTalk won't ask for your credit card. It'll ask for your email so they can send it to you. So you don't have any personal risk that you're going to get hammered by phone calls and people calling you up saying, "Hey, we got the game of the year." It's completely different atmosphere.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'd be terrible at that. I can't even promote myself. But I know you can get
lessons. I know you can get lessons from a few people on this panel if you need some.
Someday I'll give you stories about guys who can do that really, really
well. Rob can tell you a few of those stories.
I've been in those rooms.
That's why I was on the institutional side of Wall Street, because it wasn't promotion, it was performance. It wasn't bullcrap. It was knowledge and wisdom and facts.
Too much pressure. There's too much pressure to perform.
This game already started, but I want to highlight it. I was going to give out a real free pick, but this is in game. The score is 2-1 Seattle. And these are some of my favorite betting systems in baseball, focus on large underdogs. And I nicknamed them probably 15 years ago blackjack systems. And the reason they're blackjack systems is because they basically produce a below 50% win percentage, or maybe just a little bit above. And blackjack is what? A 50% game. The difference is, though, if you take a look at this system, there's a 216 plays. Or imagine yourself at the casino and you play 216 rounds of blackjack. If you would have bet $100 a hand, which I know Steve Merrill can do easily, you would have walked out of there a loser of $600. However, with this system that bets on road dogs of plus 150 and has a terrible starter, 7 ERA over his last 5 starts, and the home favorite has a starter that hasn't allowed a run or allowed no more than 2 earned runs in each of his last 2 starts. It's a highly contrarian play, but look what happens. It goes 50-50 basically. But the $100 bettor makes $8,250 on this little gem. And this game today with playing on Texas seems like, the majority of people would say I am completely out of my mind. But I know by following this and the fact that it's 25 years of history gives reason to believe that over time it's going to win. So that's pretty much it. And then I know they're running packages over there for my football with Matt Josephs for college football. You can get both of us. We were both number 1 respectively in our sport. And had a very fortunate 65.8% season last year in the NFL. So I encourage you to get that. And the reason I mentioned that is that sentiment. I showed the little pie chart. And just like Wall Street, when everybody is bullish, and I'm, Steve Merrill and I do that financial show on Tuesdays, and now we're doing like little 5-minute segments just about every day. And Bitcoin, that got so crazy bullish, and what happened? Got to 64,000. Everybody thought it was going to the moon, and we kind of crashed. And it repeats. It's not something that happens once. Oh boy, I'm glad that'll never happen again, because it will. And the same thing in sports. You get 80% bulls on one team, especially in the NFL. And a lot of times that underdog pulls the upset and everybody goes, oh my God. And I've built some metrics now. So with like the Philly media, when we tease about it, it's probably the most extreme. The Eagles win 3 games in a row. Oh my God, this is coach of the year. They're going to the Super Bowl and Dallas sucks. If they lose 3 in a row, Dallas still sucks, but then you want to fire the coach, fire the quarterback, and just burn down the stadium. So it's contrarian. So when that happens, and they want to burn down the stadium, you buy Philly, and it's amazing how accurate that can be, especially if my models are aligned with it. It's mind-blowing. Obviously, it doesn't hit all the time, but, it's just the correlation is off the charts. That's all I really have. And one last time around the table, if you guys want to promote anything you have going on at WagerTalk. I know you guys are running pretty hot, especially Marco here in baseball. I'll turn it over to him, then we'll go to Rob, Finn, and then I'll take us out of here.
Guys, the best deal going right now at WagerTalk, you can pick up any capper through September 13th for $199. You get all the plays. That's football, baseball, anything we have. With me, I throw in some horse plays in there. Get it all for 30 days. Any capper, head over there, check it out. Obviously, I'm on a hot streak right now, so I think it would be a wise investment to include me, and you can get as many cappers as you want at that price. Normally $349 for a month. You're picking up a month for $199 right now.
Awesome. Rob, you're on deck.
Yeah, last 30 days, I actually was the number 1 baseball handicapper at WagerTalk, but then Yanni the Greek came along and had a monster day and kind of shoved me back to my place, second spot. But it's been 51-28 if I count today. We're already in. We had one play today, guys. Mets first 5 in that 7-inning first game of the doubleheader, and they did win that game. So 51-28 last 30 days. Baseball's made a great turnaround, so go ahead and grab that. I'm not involved client-wise in football action here tonight, but I will be for Friday and Saturday action, so look out for those plays. Once again, WagerTalk.com.
And Mr. Finn.
I'll just put a rinse and repeat on what Marco and Rob both said. The $199, the $199 30-day all access for a capper is terrific. And as Marco stated, you can get more than one. You can get all 25. if you'd like. And we encourage it. And Marco throws in horse plays. I throw in Ben Simmons propositions.
You hear that, guys? That's awesome.
Did he propose to John?
and I give you the latest gossip too on John Machine Gun Kelly and Philadelphia Ben. So no, I'm 7-1 in baseball last 8 plays, and I'm not even in the top 3. These guys are all hot. They're killing it.
Yeah. It's a loaded over there.
when I go listen, I'd like to make an announcement right now. When I go 7-1, as rough as Summers has been, you guys need to get out of my way. You really do. Okay. And they
Good
are.
stuff, Tony Finn.
Okay, man.
Oh, man.
Well, I won a 5%er last night. And you guys know who
Very
it was
nice.
on. It was Toronto, 10-2 on the run line. Seems pretty obvious that would win. Remember my George Springer angle? Yeah, when he doesn't get a hit, it came through again. You know, it's an amazing situation with him. And it's carrying over even more so with his new team than it did with the Astros. But I'm running 65% the last 45 Major League Baseball. I have a 3-pack. I'm sorry, I only have 2. I have 2 plays tonight because the one already went. One's a total where I'm hitting a little bit over 71 since July 1st. And a dog. And I'll give it away. An ugly dog. Ugly dog. But I think this is going to be a good one, playing the run line. So it's a run line best bet and a total. So, guys, I hate to say it, but that'll do it for the show. But I appreciate every minute of your time. It's a blast. I look forward to this every day. Marco, thank you for joining us. We'll have you on again very soon. And on behalf of Rob Veno, Tony Finn, Marco D'Angelo, and myself, and the Predictive Playbook, and WagerTalk.com, SportsMemo.com, may all the wins be yours.